Welcome to the ISTL Final 4 wrap-up for ISTL Season 2, featuring the third place match between Team Impulse and Team NrG, as well as the grand finals between Western Wolves and Team My Intent. My name is Shalthus from the GKick Network at GKick.net and Observer eSports at observer.gkick.net. A special thanks to the ISTL Season 2 sponsors, Maxed Out Studios, Legends of Elveron, and Impulse eSports. Now, let's get to the first match. We kick things off with Game 1 on ESV Cloud Kingdom, as Team NrG's Creation goes up against Team Impulse's Intense. The game starts off with a 2 racks pressure build by Intense as Creation decides to expand early, and while his initial push is held back, a second double-pronged attack not only claims Creation's robotics facility, but also shuts down his natural, forcing the Protoss player to GG and award the first quick match to Impulse. Intense looks to take a 2-game lead in this TBT match as he faces off against Team NrG's Coma on MLG Antigua Shipyard. After opening with identical 2-base, 3 racks builds, the players both transitioned into Marine Medevac siege tank play. The first engagement came as Coma slowed down Intense's third before rolling in. However, the Impulse player turned his opponent away and gained a slight supply lead before doing a massive drop into the main and do some damage to extend his lead. Macroing up behind his drop play, Intense strikes on Coma's third to shut it down and force him to GG after gaining a nearly 100 supply difference with a key positional advantage. With 2 games down, Intense heads into his next match facing off against NrG's Lucky Fool in another TVT encounter here on MLG Entombed Valley. Both players open with similar builds to the last game before Lucky Fool deviates off into a tank-focused mech build. Intense makes an early poke with his Marines and Marauders, but only deals minor damage as Lucky Fool continues to build his Siege Tank Hellion mech army up. As Lucky Fool moves out, his Siege Tanks roll through the Bioforce of Intense before pushing into his base and blowing apart the Impulse player. A final engagement at the third costs Intense a great deal of his force, and he GGs, giving NrG their first win of the night. Lucky Fool hopes to tie the series up for Team NrG as Impulse sends out their first Zerg player, Hyper, here on GSL Daybreak. Lucky Fool goes for a build he executed earlier against Western Wolves with Blue Flame Hellions, Cloaked Banshees, and upgraded Thors. After a small bit of pressure in Hyper's natural, the Zerg player throws out a large amount of Zerglings who take out Lucky Fool's Hellions, the bunker at his natural, and a few SEVs as well as a full scout. The Terran player pushed out just ahead of +2 and ran right into Hyper's large Roach counter, which turned his force away and shifted the advantage largely into the Zerg player's favor. With a large Roach push, it proved to be far too much and Lucky Fool GGs to put Impulse up 3-1. Looking to seal up third place, Hyper heads into Game 5 on MLG's Shakura's Plateau against Team NrG's Dime in this ZVP match. After both players opened economically, Dime rolled out with a couple Stalkers that managed to harass Hyper's third and deal 5 kills apiece before Roaches turned them back. Poking in ahead of Blink costs Dime a handful of Stalkers and puts him further behind as Hyper rolls in with a full army to blow Dime apart and win third place series for Team Impulse. So, NrG takes 4th place, Impulse claims 3rd, and now we head into our grand finals between Western Wolves and Team My Intent. To kick off the grand finals, WCS UK champion Ziktamini from Western Wolves goes up against My Intense Mafia in a ZVZ on ESV Cloud Kingdom. A Ling Bling run-in by Mafia is slowed down by Ziktamini, but it isn't enough and the third goes down. Mini counters with a Roach Infestor attack that is nearly turned away, but Mini's reinforcements prove to be too much as Mini's final push claims Mafia's energy-free Infestors and the natural to take Game 1 for Western Wolves. Mini looks to take his second game heading into a ZVT match against My Intense McLeod on MLG Sakura's Plateau. The action starts with a large amount of Hellions and a Banshee moving in for McLeod to clean up creep and kill off the offensive queens of Ziktamini. Pushing past the Zerg player's defenses, McLeod clears out Mini's third and defensive Zerglings before finally getting cleaned up itself. A small Roach counter is turned away, and McLeod moves out with his Marine tank army. Mini tries to counter with his Banelings to shut the attack down briefly, but a successful drop and strong defense makes it impossible for Ziktamini to recover, and the Terran player forces the GG. With the series tied at 1 game apiece, McLeod runs into GSL Daybreak to face off against another Zerg player, this time in the form of Western Wolves Sordov. Sordov's Queen and Roach placement proves to be effective to turn aside McLeod's Banshee Hellion aggression, McLeod goes into a heavy bio transition, dropping 6 reactored barracks as Sort of slowly dominates the map with creep. A large engagement goes poorly for McLeod as an Infestor-Ling army destroys all of the Terran player's tanks and a large portion of his army. A massive drop goes in from McLeod in Sort of's main, but is countered by another large drop in his own main. A nearly successful push for the Terran is cleaned up with a substantial Broodlord fleet, which proves to be extremely effective despite McLeod's best efforts, forcing him to GG and putting Western Wolves up 2-1 thanks to Sort of's efforts. Sort of heads into a ZVP on GSL Metropolis against My Intense Fiery in Game 4, trying to put his team within 1 win of first place. With some early aggression, Fiery places a forward pylon right at Sort of's third and takes the base out before the Roach Force turns him back. A counterattack is shut down thanks to a large Blink Stalker army, and every Roach is killed before Fiery pushes into the natural and does massive damage to force Sort of to GG, giving the win to My Intent and evening the series up at 2-2. Once again, an even series, and Fiery enters a PvP on MLG Antigua Shipyard against Western Wolves Starnan. Fiery tries to harass with a small fleet of Phoenixes early, but is unable to do much damage thanks to Starnan's Stalker placement, but it does give Fiery time to gain a decent supply lead. Starnan, however, makes a key blink into the main to snipe Fiery's Robo before being chased out. The harass continues, more units die, and the supply lead tilts to Starnan's favor. The main engagement comes at the ramp to Starnan's natural as Fiery force fields off a split army flank to do a bit of damage before Stalkers blink out of it. Starnan's counter push takes out Fiery's third to force the GG and trade games yet again, putting Western Wolves up 3-2. Western Wolves is 1 game away from winning the Grand Finals as Starnan heads into MLG Antigua Shipyard in this PvT against My Intense Medic. A small bit of scouting by Starnan is turned away, and Medic pushes in with a few Marines to kill off the workers at the Protoss player's natural at the cost of his entire army and 4 SCVs of his own. Starnan pushes in to counter, claims a lot of SCVs and Marines before pulling back, but still keeping the supply count fairly even. After a few mildly damaging drop plays from Medic, Starnan begins to pull ahead in supply and upgrades, and the maxed out Protoss army eventually rolls into the maxed out Terran army. Huge storms do significant damage to the army, and Medic can't counter it, forcing the GG and awarding the first place finish to Western Wolves in outstanding fashion. Congratulations to our second place finishers My Intent and the ISTL Season 2 champions Western Wolves. Join us for ISTL Season 3 as we'll be presenting weekly update videos and more all season long. For the GKick Network, Observer eSports, Maxed Out Studios, Legends of Elveron, Impulse eSports, and all of the participating teams and players in ISTL Season 2, this is Shalthus. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you soon for Season 3.